My son lied on a loan application using my name. I found out when the bank froze my account days before my mortgage was due. When I asked why, he said, "You're old, what else were you gonna do with the money?" I reported the fraud. But then I found something in his room that made me. I'm a 62-year-old man living just outside Dayton, Ohio. My name's Alan. I worked steel most of my life, hard work, real work. I retired 3 years ago after 38 years in the plant. I've always lived simple. I paid my bills, kept my word, and tried to do right by the people I love. My wife passed 6 years ago. Since then, it's just been me and my son, Derek. He's 27 now. The kind of kid who always had a new idea. Landscaping, flipping cars, drop-shipping crap online. Nothing stuck. I helped when I could. Paid for trade school. Bought him his first truck. Let him move back in during the pandemic when work dried up. He was always a little reckless, but I figured he'd settle down eventually. I was wrong. Everything blew up a few months ago. It started when I got a letter from my bank saying my checking account had been frozen due to suspicious activity. I thought it was fraud or maybe some kind of mistake. I drove down to the branch the next morning. The manager, Carlene, met me in her office. We'd known each other for years. Her son used to mow my lawn when he was in high school. She looked nervous. She opened a folder and said, "Alan, we flagged your account because of a personal loan you took out last month, $38,000. Payments were missed." I stared at her. I didn't take out any loan. She looked at me like I just told her the moon fell out of the sky. "Your name, your social, your signature. Right here." She turned the folder toward me. I saw the documents. They had all my info. Even my old work address on one form. But I knew for damn sure I hadn't signed anything. I keep my papers in a locked file cabinet. I don't mess with online loans or apps. I don't even have the bank app on my phone. That's when it hit me. Derek. He'd been acting strange lately. Secretive, coming and going at odd hours, spending more money than he should have had. I remembered him asking weird questions about my retirement account a few weeks back. I thought he was just curious. Now I realized he was fishing. I went home. He was in the garage working on that damn dirt bike he never finished. I stood in the doorway and asked Derek, "Did you take out a loan in my name?" He barely looked at me. "Yeah, but calm down. I'll pay it back." I was stunned. You stole my identity." He scoffed. "It's not like that. You're old, Dad. What else were you gonna do with the money? Sit on it until you croak." That's what he said. That sentence did something to me. It felt like getting hit in the stomach. This was my son. The kid I raised. I buried his mother and did my best to keep us both afloat. And now he was standing there, looking at me like I was just some idiot standing in the way of his next payday. I walked out, sat in my truck for 20 minutes. Then I called the police. He was arrested the next morning. Fraud. Identity theft. They let him out on bail. He was smug when he came back home, like he thought it was all a joke. I told him to find somewhere else to go. He said he had nowhere. I didn't care anymore. I made him sleep in the basement. But something didn't sit right. I kept thinking about how good the signature looked. It wasn't sloppy or made up. It looked like someone had copied it from somewhere real. That scared me. I went through my documents. Everything seemed in place. But then I remembered. A few weeks earlier, I'd caught Derek in my bedroom. Said he was looking for a charger. I didn't think much of it at the time. I waited until he went out one night and searched his room. It was disgusting: food wrappers, dirty clothes, cigarette butts in a beer can. I dug through drawers until I found a USB drive hidden inside an old gym sock. I plugged it into my laptop. There were folders labeled Stuff, Bills, and one called Work_Docs. That one had scanned copies of my tax returns, my old W-2s, bank statements, even my driver's license. And there was one more file that made my stomach turn. It was a PDF of my life insurance policy. One I'd forgotten I even had. $250,000. Beneficiary, Derek. It had been opened recently. That's when my gut started screaming. A few weeks before this, the pilot light in my gas furnace went out. It was strange because the furnace had been serviced just 2 months earlier. I had to relight it myself. The air in the basement had smelled weird for days, but I figured it was just mildew. Now I wasn't so sure. I called my old friend Ray, who used to do HVAC before working at the mill. Told him I needed a favor. He came over the next day. After poking around, he looked at me and said, "Al, someone turned the gas valve halfway off. That's why it kept leaking. You're lucky the place didn't blow sky high." I felt cold all over. I didn't tell the cops right away. I wanted to be sure. I started locking my bedroom door at night. Slept with my phone and a flashlight beside me. Derek acted like nothing had changed. Watched TV in the living room like it was all just a vacation. I avoided him when I could. One night, I woke up around 2:30 a.m. Something didn't feel right. I looked out my window and saw that the garage light was on. I got up, grabbed my bat, and went downstairs. The side door to the garage was cracked open. Derek was inside, stripping the copper wire from an old power cord. On the bench next to him was a gas can, half empty. He looked up when I opened the door. "Working on the bike," he mumbled. I nodded, said nothing, and walked back inside. I locked the garage door behind me, went into the kitchen and called 911. I told them everything. Police came the next day with a warrant. They found the USB, the gas can, the stripped wires. They found something else too. A folded note in his backpack. It wasn't long. Just a single sentence, written in pen. "He's old. He'll go in his sleep." After Derek was taken in for the second time, the police didn't let him walk out so easy. They kept him overnight, questioning him. They wanted to hold him longer, but his public defender argued there wasn't enough direct evidence yet to prove intent to harm. The wiring, the gas can, the note, it was suspicious, yeah, but not enough to lock him up permanently. So they let him out again. That same afternoon, I got a voicemail from the detective handling the case. He said, "Mr. McCready, we're still investigating, but you should be extremely cautious. If he returns home, do not let him inside. We can't protect you if you allow him back in." I played that message 5 times, but I didn't need it, because Derek didn't come home. At first, I thought maybe the cops had scared him straight. That maybe, just maybe, he realized he'd gone too far. But I was wrong. 3 days later, I came out one morning and found my truck windshield smashed. A brick on the hood. No note, no prints. I reported it, of course, but nothing came from it. Then the phone calls started. Numbers I didn't recognize. No one on the line. Just silence. And then late one night, I found something taped to my front door. A copy of my obituary. Typed. Printed. My name. My birthday. And a death date listed as next week's Friday. No other info. Just that. I took that straight to the police. They filed it, added it to the case, and finally got a judge to approve a restraining order. But it was just a piece of paper. Derek wasn't in jail. He wasn't staying with any of his old friends. I checked with everyone I could think of, people I knew from his landscaping days, from school, from the gym he used to go to. No one had seen him. I started thinking maybe he was staying in his truck somewhere, or maybe someone was helping him under the table. Maybe he was watching me, waiting for a moment when no one was around. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I bought a gun. I hadn't fired a weapon since the Army Reserves in the 80s. I went through the background check, the whole process, legal and clean. Got a little .38 revolver and kept it locked beside my bed. I hated it. I hated the idea that I needed it. But I needed sleep. I needed peace. That didn't last long. One night, maybe 2 weeks after the obituary thing, I woke up to this strange sound. Like scratching. Not on the walls, not on the floor, but on the roof. I grabbed the gun. Opened the window and shined my flashlight up. No one. But in the morning, I found fresh shoe prints on the backside of the roof. The kind that only come from someone climbing up the gutter drain and walking across the shingles. I called the cops again. They took photos, but no one could prove it was him. I was losing my mind. I was scared to leave the house, but I couldn't stay there anymore. I decided to pack a bag and go stay with my brother, Don, out in Springfield. I locked up the house tight, turned on the security cams I'd finally installed, and left. That was the night my house caught fire. They said it started in the garage. Said it was likely electrical, but suspicious in origin. The walls were scorched. Half the roof collapsed. The entire back section, my bedroom, the kitchen, gone. I watched it burn from Don's phone. One of his friends saw the fire on the news live stream and showed us. I couldn't breathe. And the worst part? The fire investigator found the back door broken. Not from someone trying to get in, but someone unlocking it from the inside. Meaning someone had been hiding inside the house. I went back the next day, met the investigators. The inside was ash. Burned frames, black walls, melted wires. My whole life gone. But in the corner of the living room, behind what used to be the couch, they found something. A cot, a bag of chips, 2 empty water bottles, and a phone charger plugged into the wall. Someone had been living inside my house, in the walls, or in the crawl space, maybe for days. Now the cops were finally listening. A manhunt was opened. Derek was officially wanted not just for fraud and identity theft, but now for arson and attempted homicide. They checked his old truck, found it abandoned behind a Walmart out of gas. Empty except for a bag of protein bars and an empty Red Bull can. The detective called me later that week and said, "We're close. He's slipping." And he was. But it wasn't the cops who found him. The cops were hunting Derek, but I wasn't just sitting around waiting. I'd started digging into his life myself. I needed to know how deep this went. What I found changed everything. After the fire, I met with my bank again to go over every single transaction for the last year. I wanted to make sure he hadn't done more damage than I already knew about. That's when I saw something weird. 3 separate payments. $1, $250, $1,250, and $900. All wired to a woman I'd never heard of. Name, Alyssa Boyd. Payments marked as consulting fees. All dated from 2 months before the loan incident. Carlene, the bank manager, helped me get the wire records. The contact email linked to the transfers matched one I'd seen on the USB drive I'd taken from Derek's room. So I wrote the email down, and I sent her a message. Just simple, "This is Alan McCready. I need to talk to you about Derek." She replied 6 hours later. Said she couldn't talk over email and gave me a number. I called. The voice on the other end was young, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Nervous. "Look, I don't want to be part of anything illegal," she said. I told her I wasn't the cops. I just wanted the truth. That's when she started talking. Turns out she met Derek through a freelance site. He'd posted under a fake name and paid her to create realistic documents. Bank letters, tax returns, pay stubs, stuff to help people qualify for loans. She thought she was helping people clean up paperwork for credit approvals. Claimed she didn't know it was fraud. Said Derek told her he was helping his dad get a better mortgage rate. Even sent her a photo of me to prove it. A photo of me sleeping on the couch. She didn't know about the insurance policy, or the gas leak, or the fire. But before she hung up, she said one more thing. He mentioned something once. Said he had a backup plan in case things went real south. Said he'd go to Kentucky. Hide out with the cousin who owes me. I didn't even know he had a cousin in Kentucky. But I knew someone who might. I called my late wife's sister, Sandy. She still lived in Lexington. I hadn't talked to her in over a year. We drifted apart after Ellen passed. I told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she sighed. "There's a guy named Travis. On Ellen's side. Real piece of work. In and out of trouble. Meth, stealing, whatever. I heard he was living somewhere near Richmond. Working under the table at a scrapyard. I gave the address to the cops. But when they got there, it was empty. Travis was gone. The trailer was stripped. No furniture, no food. Just a mattress and some beer bottles. But they did find one thing taped to the wall. A photo. Of me. It was from my front yard camera. One I'd installed after the first break-in. It had my porch in the background. Me holding a bag of groceries. Written across the top in red marker, "He's not done." The cops finally considered him a full-on threat. They put out a regional alert. But Derek had vanished. Weeks went by. Nothing. Meanwhile, I moved again. This time farther out, Lima, Ohio. My brother's friend had a cabin near Indian Lake. It was old, but safe. Quiet. I needed quiet. But then I got a letter. No return address. Inside was just a single Polaroid. It was my mailbox. Smashed open. That mailbox was brand new. I hadn't told anyone where I'd moved. He had found me. I started carrying the gun everywhere. Grocery store, gas station, just walking the dog. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. Every time I saw a shadow move or heard a twig snap, I jumped. Then came the final twist. I got another email. Not from Alyssa. Not from anyone I knew. Just a subject line, "He told me you were dead." The message said, "Your son Derek stayed in my guest house for a few nights near Mt. Vernon. He told me his father passed away last month in a fire. He said he was settling insurance stuff and moving out west. I saw your name on an envelope and got curious. Found your story. I thought you should know he's heading to Colorado." He'd been pretending I was already dead. Once I got that email, everything changed. He was telling people I was dead now. At first, I felt numb. Then I got angry, bone-deep angry. This wasn't just about money anymore. Or betrayal. My own son was out there walking around like I was already in the ground. Like he'd won. No. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I met with the detective one last time. I gave him everything, copies of every email, the picture from the cabin mailbox, the Polaroid, the woman's tip about Colorado. I told him to do whatever he had to do. But I wasn't going to sit still waiting for the next blow. I hired a private investigator. A guy named Jack Maloney. Former cop, now retired, living in Dayton. Tough old bastard, worked cold cases back in the day. He listened to the whole story, then asked me just one question. You want him caught, or you want him broken? I said both. Jack tracked him down within 2 weeks. He found out Derek was staying under a fake name, Evan Marks, with a couple who rented out a detached garage in Pueblo, Colorado. Told them he was a software guy working remote. They thought he was quiet and polite. Jack followed him for 3 days. Took pictures. Watched him jog in the mornings, hit the liquor store at night. Watched him throw out fast food bags and flirt with the neighbor's teenage daughter. Jack said something that stuck with me. He doesn't think he's hiding. He thinks he got away with it. That's when I made the call. With the PI's help, I contacted the insurance company. I told them everything about the forged documents, the police reports, the active criminal case. I gave them a full statement. They launched an internal investigation. Turns out Derek had already submitted a claim on the house fire. He claimed I was alive but out of state getting medical care and that he was managing my affairs. He submitted forged power of attorney documents. He was waiting on $94,000 in property loss payouts. He almost got it. But the moment the insurer got my sworn statement and confirmed I was still breathing, they froze the claim and reported it to their fraud division. Now he wasn't just a fugitive. He was caught in federal insurance fraud. But that wasn't the revenge yet. That was just justice starting to catch up. I wanted Derek to feel it. So I took the next step. I had Jack deliver an envelope. He left it on the front seat of Derek's car while he was inside the gym. Inside was a single photo me, standing in front of a "Welcome to Colorado" sign, holding a cup of coffee. On the back I wrote, "Still alive, and closer than you think." He ran. Left the rental the next morning. Didn't even pack all his stuff. Took off in a different car, one he borrowed from some woman he'd been seeing out there. Promised her he was being framed and had to disappear for a while. But Jack followed him. All the way to Flagstaff, Arizona. And while Jack had eyes on him, I did the final piece. I worked with the DA back in Ohio. Sent over all the new evidence, the insurance claim, the photos from Colorado, the email from the woman in Mt. Vernon. They worked fast. A multi-state warrant went out. U.S. Marshals got involved. And finally, on a Tuesday morning at 6:12 a.m., Derek was arrested outside a cheap motel, barefoot and holding a gas station muffin. He didn't even fight. They found 5 fake IDs in his bag. A map with my new cabin address circled. And another copy of my obituary printed and folded in his glove box. He's facing over 28 years in prison. Fraud, identity theft, attempted arson, insurance fraud, violation of a protection order, intent to cause bodily harm. The works. I sat in the courtroom at his arraignment. He looked over at me once. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just stared at him like he was a stranger, because that's what he is now. But it didn't end there. I filed a civil suit, too. Sued him for everything he touched. Damages to my home, my name, my credit, and my health. It wasn't about the money. It was about making sure that when he got out, there was nothing left for him to come back to. The court granted it. Every future paycheck he makes, if he ever works again, gets docked. Until the day he dies, he owes me. And if you're wondering if I feel guilty? No, not anymore. I gave him a home, a second chance, a life. And he tried to erase me for a quick payday. So I erased him first. And now, for the first time in a long time, I sleep with the doors unlocked. Because the monster's not in the house anymore. He's in a cage. Exactly where he belongs.